How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well and having a good day. Today we'll be talking about Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, and my thoughts on the game without any spoilers. So I recently beat the story of the game, and I've also done a good chunk of the side content at this point, so I think I will be able to give a good idea of what to expect out of this game. Let's start with the premise of the game in case there's someone watching that doesn't really know. Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, takes place before the events of Yakuza 7, leading up to that game. You get to see Kiryu in his daily life as an agent of the Daidoji faction now, after everything that transpired in the events of Yakuza 6. Something I'll say about this game: it exceeded my expectations. Let's start talking about the story first, without spoilers of course. The story itself is longer than I thought it would be, but it's also worth mentioning that there's a good bit of filler in the middle of the story where they take their time to introduce you to a lot of the game's side quests or activities, and sometimes as you go through the story, you're required to actually go and do some of the side stuff to be able to progress in the main story. The pacing is something that I can see turning some people off perhaps, but personally I thought it was kind of well balanced because it didn't feel like they were really just throwing a lot of random things at you. It was more so either introducing something that was going to be important for you to know, or something that encourages you to actually go and do side content to be more prepared for what's to come. I guess it's also safe to say that it's kind of feels like the story doesn't go anywhere until you get to the later chapters, but personally I didn't really mind that because it felt like when the story picked up, it really picked up. But that's about the extent of what I can say about that. You play the game on your own, and you'll see what I mean. Now let's talk about the gameplay, starting with the combat. Gaiden has Kiryu use two different fighting styles. One is the all-new Agent style, which boasts a lot of new features. And then you have the classic Yakuza style, which is basically Dragon Engine Kiryu's Dragon of Dojima style, except this is probably the best version we've ever had of it, give or take. See, one of the best things about the combat in this game is, well, you can juggle a lot. And that's true for both Agent style and Yakuza style as well. And while juggling, you can also freely switch between the styles to really spice your combat up a little bit. And that's a huge thing for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well. Ever since with the Judgment games, the juggling has been slowly been built upon until they really made it feel so good in Lost Judgment. And now Gaiden thankfully also acknowledges the juggling system, and it feels just as good to use it in this game. I will say though, I felt a certain kind of way while playing through this game and just going through the combat. It kind of felt like they wanted you not to rely on the heat system or the heat actions a little too much, and that was evident by the fact that building your heat in this game probably is the slowest out of all the games in the franchise. Maybe the closest thing is only the first Judgment without any heat upgrades. Not only that, but also I was kind of a little disappointed to see that some heat actions that I really loved are not available in this game. Having said that though, there's a bunch of new ones and they are really good. One particular heat action that I really appreciate them adding is the essence of the Dragon God King, or Dragon God, Dragon King, whatever. I think you know which one I'm talking about. The last game we saw Kiryu use that move in was in Yakuza 5. Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2 both didn't have that move, but it's back in Gaiden and it looks better than ever. Now shifting away from the combat a little bit, let's talk about the side content. The biggest and probably the most anticipated side activity in this game has to be the arena or the Coliseum. This has to be the single best version of the Coliseum ever. The Coliseum in this game basically combines the Clan Creator minigame and the Arena minigame to give us one of the best renditions of the Coliseum we've ever had. Are you looking for huge, chaotic group fights? Well, look no further, because this game finally adds that, and you get to choose who gets to be in your team, and you even get to choose who you want to play as. That is definitely a first, and it's a great step. I'm so glad that they took that. I had so much fun with the arena. I can't overstate just how much fun I had. There's a whole slew of different fighters, some of which are stronger than the others, but you can still use the weaker ones and maybe even do good as them if you know how to use them. There's also a bunch of special fights with certain requirements, and really there's just a lot of different kinds of tournaments that you can fight in. There's a storyline with the arena that also, let's say, goes places. You gotta play it. And then there's also stuff like the Cabaret, which is now just live action and takes like 24 gigabytes of your hard drive, so that's not cool, actually. And then there's also stuff like Pocket Circuit. If you love that minigame and you love racing cars, well, this is back and you can enjoy it now. There's stuff like the arcades as well, with games like Daytona, and so on and so forth. I say so on and so forth because I don't really know what games are there because I don't really go there. But here's another good thing about Gaiden. There's actually sub-stories. And not just sub-stories, but also smaller missions they can just kind of accept on the street and get rewarded for accordingly. So there's a system in this game called the Akame Network, which is basically how you accept these sub-stories. And most of the ones that I've done so far are fairly beefy as well. So you're looking at least 10 minutes for each of them. Sometimes they go half an hour. And finishing these sub-stories will give you something called the Akame Points, which you can use to buy stuff within this Akame network. Akame points are also used to upgrade your own abilities at some point. The boutique is another much anticipated feature that allows you to change the outfit of Kiryu whenever you want. This is something that a lot of people wanted to see for a long time, and it's finally here, and you can actually choose whether or not you want these outfits to show up in the story. You can enable or disable that option in the options. Previously, you could only switch these outfits in Premium Adventure, which is basically the free roam mode that you get after beating the main story. But now you can just do this whenever you want during the story. And honestly, this is something that I really hope to see in future games if possible. I gotta say, you know, hearing what we heard about this game before it came out, I fully expected for this game to be like a major asset flip. You know, a lot of stuff just reused, bosses reusing movesets, quick time events even reused, blah blah blah, and possibly no sub-stories even. But no, the game is actually fairly beefy for a side game. What's crazy to me as well is that this game was made in 6 months, according to articles. So the fact that they made this game in just 6 months, and it gave us a game of this quality, I'm honestly astonished. This game really feels like Yakuza 6 Part 2, where, while going through the story, I said this on the stream as well, I felt like a lot of moments in this game felt like stuff like people would have wanted to see in Yakuza 6. Because Yakuza 6 was going through a lot at the time, having that on their workload and then also working on Kiwami at the same time, and 6 having a brand new engine that probably required a lot of work more than an average Yakuza game. As a result, I don't think they managed to put everything they wanted to put into Yakuza 6. But with Gaiden, it feels like the much desired continuation to Yakuza 6 that I think will either really satisfy people who were disappointed with 6, or I guess it would also have the opposite reaction where, you know, someone might say they should have just finished everything with 6 instead of dragging it out with another game. But honestly, to me, it doesn't really matter. I think this game did a phenomenal job in just trying to tie some loose ends, let's say, and provide a very enjoyable experience, story-wise and also gameplay-wise. My biggest, most frustrating gripe has to be the fact that there's no New Game Plus. The last time that happened was with the Kaito Files, which honestly, the Kaito Files is DLC, and even then it didn't have much to do. I still would have rather that it had that though. But Gaiden is like a whole new game. It's definitely longer than the Kaito Files, and it definitely has a lot more content than the Kaito Files. And given how the upgrade system works in this game, if you were to want to go through the story again in the future, you would have to spend a good amount of time getting money, and then the other currency being Akame points, to get back a lot of those abilities just to be able to replay the story again. And I just think it's very weird, because like, New Game Plus has always been a staple in these games. It's always been there as a feature in case you just want to replay the story with all of this stuff that you earned with a lot of hard work. And then earlier today, I also realized another thing that's kind of weird, which is you can't start Premium Adventure fresh, which was also a thing you could do in previous games. So basically, if you want to go into Premium Adventure at all, you have to beat the game and use that save to go into Premium Adventure. Now, I don't know about other people, but for me personally, the reason that starting a fresh Premium Adventure is such a big deal to me is because it allowed me to go and redo some sub-stories in case, for example, I wanted to record those for a video, since in my main save files, I'd already have done those. So it allowed me a quick way to just get into those, record what I want, and then just leave without having to sit through, you know, skipping all the stuff and waiting for the chapter where that sub-story, for example, triggers. So all in all, I really hope this doesn't become a regular thing going forward. These two are such basic things that I hope they don't forget about that. Now, you might be wondering, okay, Leon, but is it worth the price? And honestly, I would say yes, even with all the shortcomings that I mentioned, which really aren't that many. It took me about 14 to 15 hours to beat the story, and that's while doing minimal side stuff. So if you were to do the side stuff, you could easily clock in over like 30 hours, 40 hours maybe even, depending on what content you like and what content you like to avoid. Previously, as you guys might know, I said that the Kaito Files is a bit overpriced. It was very lackluster in the side content department, but Like a Dragon Gaiden actually comes through, and I do think the $50 will get you that money's worth. And no, this is not sponsored, I actually mean it. At the end of this video, I would like to thank all of you for watching this. Gaiden has been a lot of fun, and again, I just can't recommend this game enough, especially if you wanted more out of Yakuza 6, and you felt like you were robbed of, you know, certain elements that you really wanted in that game. It's just a very, very fun game in general, and yeah, I think I'll have a blast playing through this game. And I just want to give a special thanks as well to all my Hannya members for their constant support. You guys always go above and beyond, and I really, really appreciate that you guys enjoy my content. That's all for today. You guys take care, stay safe, and stay healthy, and I'll be seeing you next time, whenever that is. Bye-bye now.